Alright, so here it is, and I like it. I do. I have to give it only 4 stars. And one of the reasons why I have to hit it is purely subjective, and I'll just tell you my situation so you can judge your own against it. That way you're forearmed with any possible considerations before you hit that purchase. This other one is more objective. That's the glow-in-the-dark thing. I initially thought this would be glow-in-the-dark, meaning that it had photosensitive cells during the main lighting, or in my case, during the day, it will absorb light, and so in the absence of light, it will glow. That is not the case. These are actually the typical fluorescent accents. So in most ornamental fish tanks, and I have to stress that, ornamental fish tanks, most people will probably have a black light. So when you turn off your main light, you still got that black light that's, accenting all the little fluorescent rocks, the ornaments, what have you. And that's where this glows. So it's not completely glow in the dark. And that was the first hit. And I'm going to go ahead and show you real quick. I'm going to turn off the light, and I got a black light right now shining on it. So with a black light shining on it, very cool. And you get a different one of these. So when you got that black light, it's very cool, and it does kind of float there and all that. But in the absence of light, not so. Unfortunately, no. And that just didn't work out for my purposes. I wanted to put this in an outside fish pond. So when it's daylight, but when it's night, usually there's no light in it. And I thought it was, because it doesn't say so on the product page, so I thought, well, okay, photosensitive cells, it would glow in the dark in the absence of all light. No, you need a black light. So that was the first hit that kind of made this useless for my purposes. For an aquarium, for an ornamental fish tank, very cool stuff. It all really boils down to this little air compartment in here. And you just, got this little suction cup, put it on the bottom of the fish tank, kind of roll it up for your desired length, covered with rocks, and it just floats there. It's really lightweight, so yeah, they say, you might want to put it nearby a filter where the water coming down, so that will move it. But it's so lightweight that if you have vigorous fish, you mean fish that constantly are swimming back and forth, or maybe little schools, this will easily move just in the current of that as well. So now, of course, if you have fat, lazy fish, you may want to get it next to your current for it to move back and forth if you desire. But it is pretty lightweight, and it is easily movable by the slightest occurrence. So I think it's a very cool idea for ornamental fish tanks, just not so much for my hopes of using it as an outside pond decoration. The other thing is that, well, here's the thing, I guess. This is more of a subjective one, but I'll bring it up to you. I have tilapia in my outside pond, and they're scavengers. They're nibblers. They're constantly nibble. They're scavenger fish. And I guess I just didn't think about it at the time, but these are rather fine. And I did put this in there and let it go, and they seemed to leave it alone, but I also, they also were just fed. And I let it go for a while. Then I finally took it off, though, just because I just felt uncomfortable having such a fine piece like this floating in the tank with them being such constant nibblers. This is harmless to fish. I just don't want them eating it or trying to eat it. Maybe I don't know. I didn't feel comfortable. Now, if you have smaller fish that are not constantly, not biters or scavengers that are constantly trying to eat anything and everything around them, then it shouldn't be a problem. And the material is harmless to fish. But that was my second, more subjective hit. That's more of just letting you know what I feel, and you can decide for yourself. Now, there's one last point I want to make. This is harmless to all fish, but I want to point out this is not actual silicone, apparently. According to the package, this is made out of what's known as soft polyester. I was a little taken aback by that. I've never heard of soft polyester. I did a little web walking, I did a little research, and apparently soft polyester is not that uncommon to aquarium materials. So it is actually quite often found in fish filters, aquarium filters. So there's that, but I do want to point it out because I anticipated being made out of silicone, and instead it says made out of soft polyester. I was like, oh, okay. So, but I looked it up, I did a little research, and it's in other words, it's indigestible by fish. So even if my tilapia would nibble out it and manage to get a piece off, which is kind of unlikely. So, you know, it's pretty unlikely, but they are rather big fish, and if they did manage to finally get a piece off, it would just pass through them harmlessly. But I do want to point out that how the material. So there you guys go. So I think it's a really cool idea. I think this would be really awesome in a ornamental fish tank with a black light. But for my purposes and my slight hesitation about the fineness of material with my bigger fish, I can only give it 4 stars. But you can decide for yourself, and that's why I do these videos. All right, you guys have yourself a great one.